Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you. And this session is focusing on students, postdoc, even junior scientists who has been, you know, under the challenge of the pandemic, and they can take some advantage of some of the speakers here today. So we'll go through that down the session. But this challenge, because of the pandemic, what we see now, it has created a lot of opportunities, and we can actually see how the challenge and the opportunities is actually going to fulfill the gaps, and how any PhD can evolve from their particular position to different roles. So if we see the whole research process, and from drug development, for example, to the market, there are so many gaps, and mostly people, they look at the research angle, but there are so many other careers scientists can adopt. So we have all the opportunities here. We have a speaker here, so I would like to start introducing our panelist here. So first of all, Chavi, Chavi Chauhan. She is right now a scientific editor, scientific writer, and she's working as a scientific editor for the American Society of Investigative Pathology. And she's handling one of the journal called American Journal of Pathology, and other one is Journal of Molecular Diagnostic, under the umbrella of American Society of Investigative Pathology. She is also a director of scientific outreach and spearheading several strategic initiatives like membership engagement, and helping different members, and helping multi-society alliances so that the scientific information can reach to at maximum extent. And she's also director of continuing medical education program for one of the journal. So she has been transitioned from her regular scientist role, which is scientist who is doing the discovery at the lab. Now she's mostly at the scientific education field, we can say, or publishing field. So we'll hear more from her during the discussion. But welcome, Chavi, again. And our next speaker is Adam, who is basically also has done the PhD in the past, but he has evolved to more in the patent side. He's helping universities, startups, and pharmaceutical industry, and how to patent, how to go through the whole patenting process. And right now, his team, along with another person who is Anna here in the panel, both of them are helping a lot of academia and pharmaceutical industry in the patent process. And we'll hear more about how they have evolved from their regular role to this new role. But Adam has done also a law degree, and he has done some internship, and that has actually helped him to know more about the field, and later on changing his career. As I mentioned before, patenting is one of the important part in the whole science field, and we should know, and we should look this as an opportunity, because during this pandemic we have seen a lot of life science boost, and new companies or startups are coming up. They might have a new technology to patent. So how we can take advantage of this new role and fulfill the gap. And another person from his group, Anna Sargassian. So she's also part of the group, and again, she's helping creating applications, editing applications, if there is any amendment for the patent filing and technology transfer related applications. So that's also a part of the patenting. So we'll hear more about her. And she has done a PhD before in the molecular biology, especially inflammation related field. She worked in the neuroinflammation, and she has attained a lot of insights in the research, and that has helped actually a lot for her to creating and writing applications, because these new patent applications require a lot of scientific insights. And welcome, Anna. And last but not the least, Anuya Konduru. So she is one of the person who is working at the last part of the life science. We call it marketing, because any product and any technology coming out from the discovery point of view, and it has to be marketed, and how she's helping, and she's actually creating filling the gap that is actually moving more technology to the market. And she again has done the PhD, and she was very clear from the beginning, and she was not able to see, I think, the postdoc in that well. So she started moving into other career, which is scientific marketing. And right now she is working as a field application scientist for the Sartorius company, and which is New York based. And she's acting as a business analyst, or helping creating a lot of seminars for the clients, and helping the product demonstrations, trainings. And overall her whole PhD and previous work has helped a lot, and we'll hear from her more about how she has transitions. So welcome, Anu. So let's move it to the next segment, which is I ask each panelist to talk about themselves, and then just share about your journey. So I'll start with Anu first. Let's start, Anu. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anu Konduru. I am a product of Atlantis, so I'm very happy to be part of this program here. As Achit mentioned, I have a PhD in cell and molecular biology from Georgia State. And very early on during my PhD itself, I decided that doing bench research was not for me, but I also wasn't sure what exactly was out there for PhDs. So we did have like a panel like this many years ago, and that's where I realized that there's life beyond postdocs. So that definitely gave me hope. And once I figured that out, I wanted to see what else I could do during my PhD. Like the experiments were running in the background, but I still wanted to make use of the time. So I pretty much was living like a dual life. I was a PhD student, but I was like seeking outside internship opportunities to make sure I had some like industry ready experience, because just saying that you want to quit research was not enough. You needed to like really show that you were serious about it, you had some experience. So I tried my hand at everything. I worked with the tech transfer office at Georgia State for some time and realized that was not for me. Then I was interning as a market research analyst for a company based in Michigan. So that took some amount of time. And that's where I really started enjoying the business aspects of science, where I didn't like to do science, but I like talking about science. And I used to be teaching at Georgia State for 7 years. So I've taught 500 students. So that was something that I liked. But again, I didn't want teaching to be a thing that I wanted to do for future. So that's when I went the reverse engineering route to figure out what is it that I like and want to do. And then I tried to match roles. And that's how I stumbled upon the field application scientist role, which I do, where you're basically teaching clients or customers about your technology and kind of selling it from a science side, but not really talking about money. So it's all about that scientific communication that we as PhDs hone it over years. Every single lab meeting, we are trying to like present our data, convince our PI that we are not just wasting time and actually doing stuff. So I kind of get paid to like do the same thing. I literally get paid to talk, and talking is something that I like. So I feel this was like a perfect role. And I've been with this company for 4 years. It's been a fantastic experience. And as a next step, I am considering getting into business side of things more heavily. Now I'm like a combination of science and business. So I recently started a part-time MBA program, which my company is paying for. So the possibilities are limitless. So I would just say that take this time to like try out everything. Don't wait for permission from your PI to like do these things. It's okay to ask for forgiveness later if they find out, but it's your life. So just like there's so much time. PhD is 5 years long. You can like totally build this whole resume without your PI knowing, and just be ready to make that transition when the time comes.
Thank you, Anu. And I appreciate your clarity from very beginning. I think everybody, whoever is listening, they can rethink, and have the clarity. Thank you so much again. And next, I would like to invite Chavi if she can share her journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you, Achyut, here, because Anu, congratulations on gaining that clarity early on. I guess I'm starting to gain clarity in my career now. But as a background, I'm a trained researcher. I did my master's in biotech and PhD in molecular biology. I was always passionate about science. I still am. And for most folks who are in attendance today, they would be here because they are passionate about science, knowing there may not be much money, but it just the driving force of finding new discoveries. Um, so when I started doing my postdoc, I got involved with other folks who were writing extensively and reviewing extensively, and I had time at hand. I started offering so I started volunteering to review for them. And I started getting a lot of invitations from different journals to review even more because I was doing apparently a good job and also doing it quickly. And that matters to the journals. Um, I also, when I was writing my master's thesis, I hated it. When I was writing my dissertation for my PhD, didn't quite enjoy it as much, didn't enjoy writing the primary research manuscripts. But something changed when I became a postdoc. I think it was just that feeling of being empowered that you can do and you own your science finally clicked in. And I started collaborating with my lab mates on writing several review articles, primary research manuscripts, as well as book chapters. My postdoc was very short. It only lasted a year and a half because I finally got the clarity that Anu got early on. And that was that I was actually enjoying writing and reviewing and editing. And unfortunately, I don't want to date myself, but there were not many resources and panels like these where people would talk about alternate careers. So I went to one of the NIH's career fair and they talked about scientific writing and editing as a career choice. And that was my first exposure to even knowing this could be an alternate career coming from science. I was fortunate to be at the NIH because we had an NIH's Fellows Editorial Board. So I joined that, started volunteering my time. Um, Also, again, building on what Anu has already said, not to be intimidated by your PI and their expectations, because my PI was very research and academics driven, and he wanted to see me as an independent PI in a different institute. But I was enjoying it so much doing all this work that besides my full-time, research in the lab, on the weekends, I would spend entire weekend trying to do my share of the work for my fellows editorial board meetings. And that's when my husband pointed it to me, do you want to take it up as a career? So then I extensively applied, and within a course of 2 months, I had my first job, which was with ASIP, where I have been for the last 8 years.
Great, Chavi. Yeah, but I just like to mention that writing is something every scientist after PhD during the PhD is doing. Is just if you see the passion going in that direction, and that's something your PI will be always agreeing on because you're polishing your skills and you can do after hour and anytime, and that's kind of complementing your current research work. So yeah, I'm happy that you are here, and I think this is something everybody should be doing in the side. And I can see the recent one of the Harvard Review business, there was an article that why we should have like two careers. So scientific writing could be one of the side career if you are doing the research. So yeah, thank you again. So next I would like to invite Adam if he can share some of his journey. Thank you.
Absolutely. So it's amazing how very similar our careers all began and progressed. So I will say I started initially with a bachelor's of science degree, and I initially worked as a research technician in a lab at Emory, because at that time I didn't even know I wanted to do a PhD. And after a year or so of working as a technician, I realized that I could get a PhD doing more or less the same type of research I was doing as a technician. So I applied and stayed at Emory and continued along the PhD track. I also realized about halfway through that I was interested, although not yet committed, to alternative options outside of academic research. So I also attended a career panel like this one. In fact, I remember very specifically that it was the Emerging Leaders Network career panel through Georgia Bio, and they had representatives from industry science, patent law, tech transfer, and venture capital, all of which sounded interesting to me because, like so many of the others, I loved science. I just didn't love, basically what I didn't love was having experiments that were inconclusive and then having to go back to the drawing board and continue to redesign experiments. And I got to the point where I was very excited to read about other people's successful experiments, but that I didn't feel like I needed to do them myself anymore. So all of those career options provided opportunities to read and write and discuss science that wasn't my own, and that really appealed to me. But the overwhelming opinion of the group was that none of those careers allowed people to start without experience. But how do you get experience if you can't start without experience? So I was not typically inclined to raise my hand and ask questions at panels like that, but on that day I did. And I said, how do you get experience that would be valuable to these to making this career transition? And the tech transfer associate from Emory said, we need more help than we have available to us. And if you'll work for free, we'll find a place for you. And so I pursued that and spent about a year and a half as I was finishing my PhD working a few hours a week at the Emory Tech Transfer Office, which at the time was evolving into a formalized intern program. And I know a number of the other universities around the country, but in particular in Georgia, the tech transfer offices will take interns. So that exposed me to patent law, business development, and tech transfer. And I came out of my PhD at more or less around the recession period of 2007, 2008, 2009. And so I was driven into patent law, although I loved all of these different types of career paths. My first job was, the first one that came available to me was in patent law. And it was ironically through network I created at that very same ELN group, because there was a representative from Pabst Patent Group there and a former graduate student from my program that worked at Pabst Patent Group. So I created a network, and that very single opportunity of that career panel, I both got, I both worked into an internship and created a network that allowed me to get my first job. And as I began to work in patent prosecution, I realized how much I loved it. And I have never left. So and Anna and I will talk a little bit more about this, but I worked first as a scientific advisor, then as a patent agent, then our firm supported me going to law school at night. So I now have a law degree as well, and am now a patent attorney, and with no plans to change career.
No, wonderful. I think there's a lot towards the business side, and as we see, in future, there's a lot of people from the bench side, they will move towards the business side, and that's actually more lucrative, and you can plan your stuff much more efficient way. So thank you, Adam, for doing this. And I would like to again, Anna is the last one. Then we'll go to the next segment.
Thank you, Achyut. I agree with everyone and everything everyone said. Like most of us, I started with a bachelor's degree. I loved science so much. I immediately went and did a PhD. And I loved my PhD experience, graduate experience, and I wanted to stay in science. I actually also did 6 years of postdocing. I worked under 3 different professors. I changed the research scope a little during those 6 years, but I really was not thinking of leaving science and leaving academia and leaving it and moving on to something else. But as I was on my 5th, 6th year of my postdocing, I started questioning whether there is really a future in academia for me, because I did apply for NIH grants. My grants did get scores. They weren't very low. They were actually promising, but the question was, well, will you be better next time? Will you be? We don't know. At this time, I was already reviewing academic papers for journals. I was making a lot of contacts with professors, looking at my options, and it was becoming increasingly clear that the life in academia was just extremely tough. And so as at the same time as I was looking how to progress in academia, I was also thinking, well, let's also look outside and see what else can we do with the PhD in science. I really did not want to leave my science behind. And I wanted to use the skills, use the training that I received for any potential future career. When I was a postdoc at Emory and was given an information that there's a tech transfer office. So if you don't want to stay in academia, you can actually transfer to do something else. So I said, well, let's see if I can do an internship there. And I was so lucky that I was accepted to do an internship. I think it was like January of 2012. And when I was accepted, I was given a choice. You can do licensing, which is working with companies and presenting them some startup technology that is being developed within Emory and licensing it with already established companies, or you can do a patent track. I first chose to do the licensing track for a month or so, but I quickly realized that I'm not a very extroverted person. I don't like to speak a lot. I'm a more introverted person. And I thought, well, maybe I should look at patents also. And the moment I started reading about it, I loved it. Because like Adam said, you start to analyze and look critically at someone else's research, and then you have to apply it to within the framework of patent law. One of the first things I did, I tried to learn a little bit about patent law to see how the science fits within the law and what it is we're trying to do. So the more I spend my time in the internship for the patent track at Emory, the more I realized that this is a career I want. But then, like Adam said, how do you get into a career when it requires experience, when you don't have experience? So I stayed at Emory Technology Transfer for 6 months. And after that, my program finished. I needed to find a position at the law firm that does take a scientist like me without any other credentials in patent law. And so I started as a scientific advisor in Pabst Patent Group. I think within 2 years, I had to take a critical exam to become a patent agent. But before then, all I did, and before becoming a patent agent, I literally used the analytical skills I knew, developed through the scientific career, and applied them for the technologies that we were prosecuting for our clients at Pabst Patent Group. And it requires a lot of writing, and I loved it. And I'm not looking back. It suits my personality. I can stay secluded, introverted, and just read about science, analyze it, compare and contrast it. And we can talk a little bit more as to how a transition can happen from when you're just an intern and how you create your network of people, and who do you ask, and how do you find contacts and find suitable law firms that would be willing to take on scientific advisors.
Thank you, Anna. So I see Kevin. Kevin is here. I think he's part of Emory Technology Transfer, and he must be very proud of you both.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the challenges a little bit, because I think if you say challenge is different for everybody. Somebody who's coming from other country, they are on J1, H1 visa, they don't have much things to do around because they are mainly here for the research. But as you go through the green card process and citizenship, you have more flexibility. You can move on to other roles. But I would like to know from you all, like, what are the challenges you face, especially your personal, your mindset, How was your motivation when you were thinking about, changing career, whether it was a fear of rejection or stress or anything? So Chavi, you can go first.
Thank you, Achyut. That is a great question. In terms of challenging, I think my biggest challenge initially was not knowing that, I enjoy science communications, right? Most of us, and I would love giving presentations. And when I started writing with my colleagues, I enjoyed that a lot. Reviewing, giving critical feedback to others, I enjoyed that. So I started volunteering, but it was still not clear that this could be an independent career path to follow. So for me, the biggest challenge was knowing that a career path like this exists. And another challenge was trying to conform my personality and my goals with what were the expectations of my PI. And I had struggled with that during my graduation because I wasn't given much freedom of thought as a grad student. So I felt empowered as a postdoc, so I could push back on that, and I could set boundaries. So I would highly encourage all the attendees, especially the trainees, that you do not need to be dictated by somebody else's agenda. It is your career. It is critical for you to identify what excites you exactly about science, because there are different aspects, And one more thing I would say, I didn't have many opportunities to volunteer. So I think, Adam, you got really fortunate there, establishing, I would say, the pipeline of interns for others to follow, like Anna. But it would be great to just explore opportunities to volunteer. If there's a specific kind of or aspect of science that excites you, just talk to people, network, and see where you can just volunteer to start building your CV, your resume, and at the same time, even doing a little bit more in that realm to know if you still remain excited. Because maybe if you try something, then you're like, oh no, this is not meant for me, right? So then try something else out. So be open to opportunities. Don't get limited by what others are saying, and definitely volunteer and network.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things that come to mind, and I think knowing and understanding what the job entails and requires is critical. And to the extent that you can gain some exposure, either through a network or an internship, is invaluable. So our job in patent prosecution is basically to take invention disclosures from either universities or companies, try and understand what the potential commercial applications of the scientific discovery are, and expand them out into a patent application. Then argue back and forth with the patent office about what the scope of those claims should ultimately be, because that's what provides you the opportunity to exclude others. So reading and writing are critically important and 80 to 90% of what we do. It's a little bit social and interactive, but it's mostly, as Anna mentioned, it is mostly just by yourself reading and writing. It's remarkably intellectually demanding, which I don't think I understood coming from the bench initially. When you work at the bench, you're dealing with technical problems, but part of your working through the technical problems is the hands-on experimentation, which is less intellectual and more physically technical. When you get into a job that is just reading and writing, it's only intellectually technical. We don't do any bench work. And so there's no break for your brain. And it's surprising how difficult it is to read scientific literature, try and interpret it all day long, every day, which is really what we do. And I will say that the last thing that I'll mention that I think is often difficult for people that are making the transition from bench research into patent law is flipping the way that you think. So you use all of the reading, writing, technical research skills that you develop in bench science, but you flip it on its face. So at the tail end of your PhD or if you're a postdoc, you may be asked to review manuscripts. And what you're looking at is opportunities to poke holes in someone else's research so that you can push them to strengthen their ideas and prove them to a greater degree. As a patent practitioner, you are an advocate for your client. And in many cases, what you have to work with is what they have. You cannot go back to them. There are exceptions, but in many cases, there's not an opportunity to gather more data or clarify technical issues. What you have to do is come up with creative ways to do the exact opposite of what a reviewer does, which is you have to take what you have and build it up as strongly as you can to advocate for your inventor's position. You do act like a reviewer in some senses because you do want to take what the examiner has said and poke holes in their rationale. But I think thinking in terms of writing your thesis, writing manuscripts, and then the interaction that you have with reviewers is kind of a good way to understand what it is that we do, because that is primarily our purpose is to read and digest and understand the technical aspects of an invention and then argue with a patent examiner who wants to limit us maybe to a single experiment. We always want something more than that, because the commercial value is always going to be more than the individual experiment. If you're developing therapeutics, do you want a therapy that only covers treatment of mice? Usually not. So those are the type of things that we're constantly reading and writing and thinking about. So I would say it's very intellectually challenging. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of adrenaline involved because we work on very tight timelines. It's kind of like constantly studying for a test that you never take, or I should say that you take the test every day. But I happen to enjoy all those aspects of it. So if those sound like something you'd like, this might be a good career for you.
Thank you. So Anu, you did a couple of internship earlier, and did you have any mentor, or it is all self-driven, if you want to share?
I want to say it was all self-driven. I think that the drive was fueled by the fact that I didn't want to do a postdoc. I was like, PhD, that's it. I am not touching a pipette again. Like whatever needs to motivate you. That was what drove me. My PI had offered me like a postdoc position for a while until I find something serious, but I'm like, I don't want it. Like after I defended my PhD, I even stopped going to lab. Like, I'm like, I need to get out of here. So it was like that drive right from the beginning. So as some of the speakers mentioned, that internship opportunities are like really helpful. And you have to start somewhere. Don't worry that you don't know anyone in a group, just like reach out. And I also noticed that a lot of people are actually helpful. Like it might seem like I'm talking to a stranger, but surprisingly, the strangers are helpful. And everyone likes to talk about themselves. So the more you talk to them about like, how did you do this? How did you do that? That's how like you establish a rapport, and then you kind of like build on that. You get some ideas. And just reach out to everyone. If you don't get a reply, don't take it personally. But you said 100, maybe you're going to get like a couple replies, and just like work on it, like build on it. So that, I think that's what I did. And another friend of mine also did the same thing. Like we both were PhD students in the same lab, and we both wanted to quit research after PhD. So we both like find that support where someone else is also serious about leaving the industry, leaving the academia. So you both can like bounce ideas off of each other. You have someone who feels that, I don't know, pain or drive, who keeps pushing you. So have like a support group kind of thing. And when I was a PhD student, Georgia State did not have like a specific program that helped people to transition into industry. But now they have a program with the Institute for Biomedical Sciences. So we kind of like did it by ourselves, and now it has become an official program with the university. So it is what it is. You have to like do it. And one thing I want to mention is a lot of PhDs are international students, and the fear of like not being able to get work visas, or like they're going to see you're an international student and not hire you, that is a big fear. And everyone told me that it's risky for you to like not do this postdoc and try to jump there. Even I don't know, I wanted to prove them wrong. That was also a drive. But I want to tell like any international students that are there, don't let that fact like stop you from pursuing. Because if you're good, you're gonna get hired. So don't, that's the main thing. Don't let this mental barrier stop you from doing stuff because you're as good as any other PhD in the US. Again, we all are like studying in the same system, but just keep pushing it. And if you're serious about it, just like don't listen to anyone, commit to that idea, persevere, because it's all about how seriously do you want to get out of that. And just like keep doing it. That's what I would say. And I didn't face any challenges being an international student. I got 2 job offers, one from Thermo Fisher and one from Sartorius. So it's possible, I would say. I'm not boasting, but I'm saying that you've got to like have that tunnel vision and just keep going if that's what you want.
Yeah, definitely clarity, confidence, and the skill set, what you are good at is going to help for your future all over.
Yeah,
So
I just want to make one point that people should be like very hard on themselves and figure out what is it that they are good at. I'll be very honest and say that I was a B grade scientist. I was never a superstar scientist. You have to like own it. That was my weakness. I was not going to be a B grade scientist for the rest of my life. So I was like, I'm good at like talking about science. That's what I'm going to do. So be honest with you. Don't worry about what others going to say. Like your strengths are your strengths. Just own them up and accept your weaknesses and just like use them to your advantage.
perfect. So Anna, can you share like what was the role of the mentorship around you, or networking, or any kind of other support you had when you were transitioning?
Yes, absolutely. So initially, I was only given a little seed of an idea that the technology transfer office will help. And that was because throughout my postdocing of 6 years, I was actually trying to see avenue of what else is out there. And I was at one point at University of Colorado, and there I was lucky enough to know that they have a technology transfer office, but unfortunately they weren't accepting people, I think, in certain area, and so I wasn't really a candidate, so I couldn't apply there. So when I came to Emory and I discovered that they also have a technology transfer area, and then I researched further, I discovered that they will accept me as a candidate for an internship. I also throughout my internship was trying to understand if this thing I'm training for, patent prosecution, if it's anything that I would want to do. And the more I did it, the more I discovered that yes, like Adam said, it's extremely intellectually challenging, and you do have to apply all of your analytical skills. And the day goes by very fast, although all you're doing is sitting and just thinking and writing. What could be better than that? But anyways, as for networking, I was aware that there are many law firms in Atlanta area here, but I really didn't know where to start. Who do you contact? Although the technology transfer program can provide avenues for that, one or two law firms that they're associated with, I actually had to do a lot of groundwork myself. So I had to create a long list of all the different law firms in our area, in Atlanta area, within traveling distance, because I didn't want to change cities. And I also made a list of these law firms. I looked to see whether they have an IP program, intellectual property program, and if they do, what kind of intellectual property are they protecting? Is it electrical sciences? Well, I won't be any good for that. Or is it biological and chemical sciences? So once I narrowed my list, I then tried to contact people there. And here is where I completely agree with all of our panelists. People want to help. Whether you know them or not, but once they know that you're kind of in the same position as they were like 5-6 years ago or 2 years ago, and they see that you're trying your very best to find something that's appropriate for you as a career, and you just want to contact them for an advice, they're more than happy to help you. A lot of people helped me when I was in that position, and I returned the favor back, and I will continue doing that. So I was contacting many people. Some were lawyers, some were partners, some were on the track to be partners. So these are people who are like working all the time and don't have a minute to spare. But they were willing to come out and have lunch with me and sit down, not even once, sometimes twice. And they were able to find the time, sit down with me and explain what their job is like, what their daily job is like, how demanding the work is or not. So where are the good avenues of the job and where it can be challenging. And so I had interviewed for probably, not interviewed, but I had contact and information related lunches or just coffee, talks over coffee for about 6-7 people. And the more I was able to contact them, the more I realized that this is indeed a career for me. And also these contacts that we build, we want to follow up. We want to contact them maybe in a few weeks' time to see if there is an opening at the law firm, if they do want a scientific advisor. I'm just speaking from what I did. And so let's say you not only need to contact the people you know, but you can also look at their website. And Pabst Patent Group just happened to be the law firm that I really wanted to get into. So I continuously monitored whether they needed new scientific advisors or not, just through their regular internet posts. And a lot of the times it was no, it was just send us your CV. If we need you, we'll contact you. And so I did send my CV twice. I followed up twice. I went for interviews at least 2 times. And then finally, I received a call back asking if I want to come for an interview, which was fantastic. And I was very lucky. Pabst Patent Group got me in to do scientific work for them. And I haven't looked back. I just love it there. So I think Achyut raised an issue about visas. And Anu too said, like, you may be inhibited if you don't have the right visa standing. Please don't be. The scientific world, whether you're doing patent work or I'll ask Chavi if it's the same in scientific writing, this is so challenging that there are more job opportunities than there are candidates for. And so the law firms or editors maybe in journals, they have an interest in obtaining talent and retaining talent. And so if you're very good at your job and you have a H-1B visa, they might sponsor you to go through a naturalization process. And I have happened to know 2 different people that have started a career on H-1B visa, but they were able to show to the United States immigration agency that they were so valuable that they were it was a requirement from their employer to stay, and they had to become a naturalized citizen. And basically the immigration barriers are there, but they're overcomable. And so if you want to progress to a career and establish it for yourself, do as much research as you can and don't be inhibited by your visa standing. That's it.
Thank you, Anna. So there's a couple of announcements. So first one is about the poll. If you go to the platform, there's an option called polls next to the chat box. So please feel free to fill that. It's about like whether you are looking forward to change your career or any transition. So please feel that. So that will help in understanding what is going on out of attendees we have. And plus we do have a file section there, and there's some resources. You are always welcome to download that, and there will be many more files I think after this event. So let's move to the next segment, and I would like to ask panelists about how does the pandemic has actually changed their life, whether they see more opportunities in their field, and how do they see their career right now. If the pandemic is affecting you, see more opportunities or less opportunities, or do you suggest anything about your career path after the pandemic? Thank you. So I'll start with the Chavi.
Okay. Yes, definitely. this pandemic has affected each one of us in different ways, and the industry of scholarly publishing is no different. And as you can all appreciate, we publish research articles and other related scholarly content. And as the pandemic hit, the labs were shut down. Folks were not allowed to go in, even on a rotating basis to begin with. So we were worried about the pipeline of submissions sort of drying up early on. And that's part of the process, right? When you're a researcher, you think about your plan B, plan C. So early on, we started thinking about first our submissions getting affected from outside countries like China and Italy, but then, it's a global issue. So we sent out a call for papers where we encouraged our members and our readers to start collecting the data they had so far and trying to convert them into primary research manuscripts. So we would we would request our reviewers not to be too critical about all the science in terms of adding on more experiments. So the researchers, while they were sitting at home, could use this opportunity in synthesizing and disseminating their science that they had done so far. We also sent out a call for review articles, and it's a great way for all trainees and even for like established researchers to review the literature to see where things stand and to get ideas about what they want to do further in their research. And as a result, we got a lot of submissions in terms of reviews. And currently I'm working with 3 different experts in 3 different areas of science, including AI and computational pathobiology, neuroscience, and breast cancer, to develop thematic issues that are going to come up next year. So try to identify opportunities, definitely try and foresee what could be stalling your plans, and then act proactively to have a game plan to, be ahead of the curve. Our workflow was also affected because of the pandemic, because although everything is handled by our journal office, which is located in Rockville, and some of the remote employees like myself, but our production is handled by our publisher, that is Elsevier, but they were sending out some copy editing and typesetting requests to India. And in India, there was a sudden shutdown where nobody got an opportunity to collect their belongings from the office, including their
I'd like to
laptops.
interrupt for a second. So we have 3 more minutes to go. I just want to, your answer should be very concise so that everybody gets a chance, and then I'll conclude the session. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. At an industry level, we have seen an increase in preprint servers, non-peer-reviewed science, and that's the way the industry might go next. And I think I'll stop at that point.
Okay, so Anu, you have been doing a lot of marketing, and it's a field-based job. So do you see any disturbance in your role, and do you see this kind of roles are growing in future?
My schedule definitely got disrupted. Before COVID, I would work in the field probably like 40 to 60% of the time. The rest would be conducted out of my home office. So I am a remote employee. I've been for the past 4 years. And since COVID, I've stopped going on site just until recently. And we've had to just adapt a little bit. Everything can be done remotely. We've had some few learning curves there. But it's become more and more remote. And I think at least going forward, everything can be done remotely just because of the technology that's available. And in terms of like demand for my positions, there was a lot of demand pre-COVID because there's a lot of jobs, but we don't have enough qualified candidates who can do this job. And I feel like going forward, the demand is going to be there. Like right now, the companies are kind of on a hiring freeze because their revenues got affected because they didn't sell a whole lot of stuff in the past few months. But once we start to like get out of the situation, the demand is going to resume. Like I personally used to get at least like 2 or 3 recruiters contact me like every week. So there's definitely a ton of jobs there. So just be ready to take it.
Thank you. I think we are running out of time, so I would stop here, and I would like to conclude that we are evolving every day, and because of pandemic, the speed is, I think, is more now. But we should realize what is good for us, what is skill set you need, what clarity you have. So that will help in growing. And of course, there's a lot of opportunity after the COVID, more funding, more like PCR based job. So please look at all of them. And of course, the alternative careers are always there. So I would like to thank everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.